disadvantage of someone else. I know people who have spent many years praying that misfortunes would come to another person. How we can do a thing like this in the name of God is difficult to understand, but it happens every day. We also have a great number of prayers in which the individual is asking God to take care of things he should be taking care of himself, not waiting for the infinite to step in and correct a commonplace situation that we should all be able to handle. Therefore, we have prayer, which essentially is a relationship with God, transformed into a kind of a basis of a new kind of old age pension or social security. Prayer becomes the basis of the gratification of very commonplace desires. We don't realize we're misusing it. We have the best intentions in the world. But when we start to pray that somebody else is going to let us foreclose a mortgage on them, we're in dangerous ground. We're in very dangerous ground. And when someone stands up and testifies that as a result of prayer they've doubled their income, there's just a little doubt as to whether this is what prayer was intended for. Whether we really have a right to assume that some spiritual force in nature, a force which has as its primary concern the achievement of ultimates, the great infinite patterns of things, should be supplicated every time we have a headache or every time we have an appetite or a desire which we feel needs gratification. This type of use seems to lead us away from the essential integrity of life. And when we pray that somebody else shall be over-influenced in some way or another, what about the other person? What about the individual who lost money so that our income could be doubled? Did the universe turn on him for our benefit? Was our prayer a means of dishonestly acquiring that which did not belong to us? Most people won't even bother to ask the question. They don't care how it's fulfilled as long as they get what they want. But can we assume that the universe operates this way? And if we're willing to assume this, what happens to our own relationship with every problem of existence? The moment we take the honesty out of the universe anywhere, we take it out everywhere. Either there are principles and rules in this world, or there are not. And if there are rules, we cannot break them, and we shouldn't try. And if there are no rules, then our entire ethical life collapses, and we have no hope or no reasonable expectation of any kind of good end or constructive purpose in our own existence. The old Greeks brought this question under consideration, and one of them asked Pythagoras how a man should pray. The old Greek replied, never pray for anything. Don't pray for the fulfillment of any desire, because if you pray hard enough, your desire may be fulfilled, and may be the destruction of you. In other words, we all know what we want, but only heaven knows what we need. And where we begin to decide what we want and use various esoteric ways of getting what we want, we are defying that universal pattern which alone knows what we need. Therefore, it would appear that prayer has a function, it has a purpose, it has a reason. But that reason is not the fulfillment of commonplace desires. Prayer is a mystic relationship with life. It is man finding the source of his strength in a regular communion with the heavenly power that creates all things. Nearly all ancient prayers were hymns of praise, hymns of thankfulness and gratitude. It was very rare indeed to find in ancient or primitive prayers anyone asking for anything. It was the person simply stating in simple conviction his realization of the wonders of life, of the blessings he enjoyed, the wonderful privileges that he had. And he gave thanks to heaven for the sun and the moon and the earth and the seasons and the harvest. He was not asking, he was thanking. And prayers of this nature are pretty safe prayers, because they do not involve any interference in the processes or order or reason of life itself. One thing I think is very important, whether it be in mentalism or in anything else, in prayer or anything that even seems to suggest a metaphysical factor anywhere in our action, and that is that whatever thought we think, whatever message we send, whatever prayer we say, that let us have at least one regulation on it, namely, that it be beautiful. Let it always be good. Let it always be something that if it so happened that it returned to us, we would be glad that it had returned. That there is nothing in it whatever that could be hurtful or harmful or evil. That we ask nothing of another person, exercise no influence over another person, except to bless them, to wish them well, and to hope them the strength to be themselves. Asking that they do nothing for us, or because we want them to, but asking only that they have the insight and the understanding to live true to their own highest principles. If we are very, very careful to keep ulteriourness out of our thinking, we do not have to live with the consequences of it sometime in the future. But just as we have taken every new and beautiful discovery that man has made and finally used it to hurt man, so even the most simple and beautiful and gracious thoughts that perhaps we start with all too often are twisted around to find some advantage for ourselves or disadvantage to others. In times of war, both armies pray for victory. This cannot be. In all the problems of life, we seek to call upon a divine aid for the advancement of some human concern. And this advancement is nearly always selfish. So another very safe rule in connection with all transcendentalism is to take the self out of it. I think this was the burden of Buddhism. Buddha, of course, lived in India. The Brahmins and Hindus of his time practiced magical rites. They called upon the gods, they invoked spirits, and they did many other things of this nature. Buddha warned against it, as also in Greece did Pythagoras. He warned against it on the ground that all of these rites and rituals had something to do with the gratification of man. That the individual wanted power, he wanted wealth, he wanted security. And even when he, Faust-like, bound some elemental to his services, as in the old legends, it was always in order to gain some gratification for his own ambitions or desires. One of the ways to take the blackness out of magic is to take the selfishness out of it. And in the ancient religions, there was a kind of wonderful divine magic. The magic of illumination, the magic of insight and enlightenment. This mysterious and wonderful magic by which man seemed able at times to come into the presence of his God to stand in the transcendency of the divine principle, to enjoy or to participate